The difference between gambling on crypto and actually consistently taking good trades is huge. And in this video, I want to give you a tool that I believe will help you completely transform your trading and get it to the next level. There's a checklist that I'm going to share with you. And the last one, the last point on the checklist, it has saved my ass from so many bad trades, and I also have a few interesting stories. But let's jump right into it. And in order to make it like very as good as possible, we're gonna talk about a specific setup that I'm potentially eyeing, and we can go over the setup and the checklist at the same time. So this is Sol. Just a little intro to the setup. This is Solana, and as you can see on the weekly, we are at a key level around 130. Basically, we had a massive sell-off from the all-time high. We had a massive red candle last week, and now this week we're pretty much at this level of support, and we gotta see how the week will play out, obviously, for the setup. But it's a nice area to do business. Let's put it this way. Same on the daily, and you can see plenty of touches, plenty of wicks on the downside. And now we're currently hovering around this level of 124, 130, this entire area. And the first thing on the checklist, that when you're eyeing a setup, obviously you need to have some kind of a system, some kind of a way to determine if you're gonna enter this trade or not. But the checklist that will help you once you have a system that you believe works for you, this will be kind of the points that you need to look into before entering the trade, or while you're deciding if this is a trade taking this is a trade that will actually make you money. So the first one is narrative. Let me just put it like this. And in the comment below, I will just pin this on the top as a checklist, and all the points in there with a little bit more detail, so you can use it for further reference if you believe this will be helpful. So narrative, very important in crypto, more than the price action, more than anything, is, are you in the right narrative, or do you have a clear story of why a setup will play up in your favor? And in this case, for Solana, the narrative for me is clear. This was one of the darlings of this bull run. It has massively sold off because of different reasons, like Trump launching meme coins, in general meme coins imploding the entire space. So the narrative has shifted to, oh, Solana is shit, nobody wants it because it extracted so much money from the ecosystem. However, the fundamentals are still there. There's still meme coins, even as we speak, they're pumping, even as the market is down. And there will always be degenerate gamblers on this chain. And I think it's still one of the better cryptos and chains in the world. So massively oversold in a way that, with all the press, the bad press that it's been getting with Trump and so on, I think the narrative here is it's potentially going to have a bounce if obviously S&P and BTC align also for a bounce, which is also part of the attention and the narrative that you need to look into on the broader markets. But the narrative here for me is clear. We have oversold Solana, we have a key level and potentially a bounce at least into this 150, 160, 170 area for at least a short-term relief rally after almost like a couple of months of non-stop selling pressure. And you can have different narratives. There could be an AI narrative heating up like it used to be. There could be some other stuff, like even meme coins narrative heating up. There was a DeFi AI narrative which was heating up. And if you find early enough the winners in those narratives, or at least if you're in the space of these winners, you have higher probability to make good trades. A different example to this is Ethereum. Ethereum has not been in a narrative since forever. And everybody that has been trying to time the bottom or take trades on Ethereum have really lost money. So very important to have the right narrative for crypto trading. The next one is place to do business. I mentioned this a little bit, but let's go over it more specifically. So on this chart, it's very clear where price have been respecting this level, and how many touches we have. And it's very clear that around this place, either on the bearish or on the bullish side, there will be price action that will be interesting. The same was here on this 180 level for Solana. So as you can see on this massive wick, first we wicked down exactly to the level we are right now. Then we came back all the way to this level around 180, and then we sold off from it again to this level. So clearly it's a level of interest. And I think the first one and the second point are probably the most important, because you gotta be able to mark out charts in a proper way, and this takes time. You know, not always you know which level to trust and which not. Like for example, this area here, as you can see, we faked out above it, but once we closed again above it, then it started accelerating. And for example, why didn't price hold here, like in this case in the $20 range for Solana, and why did we break down so much lower and then bounce back? You know, all those things with experience. I'm not going to spend time now. We can discuss it in separate videos if you're interested. So go leave me a comment, like the video to know that you guys are watching while I'm putting this content. And you can then mark out the areas of support, resistance, and you can make better judgments on where to do business pretty much in any cryptocurrency. In this case for Solana, we have a very clean place that we're gonna do and we'll business around. So the next point is number 3, clear plan for entry and exit. So now we get into a bit more specific things for the actual trade. So first of all, we have a place to do business, but what needs to happen for us to trigger a trade? And in this case, for me personally, the setup that I'm looking into, it's a long setup, so bullish. I'm trying to buy Solana if certain things happen. And for me, we can go down to the daily a little bit more. For me, it will be a reclaim of this level and starting to close on the daily and on the 4 hour, starting to see closes above this 130 level. So this for me will be the plan. If we get into this, first of all, on the lower time frames, like we have on the 4 hour, you can see here lower highs, lower lows all the way. And currently we're starting to make higher lows here. So are we going to have a higher high and potential retest here and then have this leg up? I don't know, but this is what I'm looking for. So I have a very clean plan for when to enter. So on the reclaim, on the 4 hour and on the daily of the 130 level, and when to exit. Well, technically you can set up the trade like this. So maybe somewhere, oops, not here. You know, entry somewhere around 130. The stop should be below the wick, so the lowest low here that you have. Target potentially the highs. But even if you get this setup, as you can see, it's almost 2.5 hours for this trade, which is not terrible. But even if you do this trade like this, you can still manage within it. So even this, I will consider preparing for my plan. So let me just delete this so we can see it better. If we enter here and if we start seeing closes, I would say I don't want price to go back below this level. I don't want to see consistent daily closes below this level. So if I see price starting to lose this level again, and I would say even, you know, this kind of a trend line, just you know, as a gauge of price strength or weakness. So I would say even here, it's not a terrible stop loss. It wouldn't be a hard stop for me if I'm playing leverage. This will probably be a spot position for me. It wouldn't be a hard stop. My hard stop will be here, but I'm monitoring, and if we start closing below here, I would consider this weakness and I would close the trade even earlier, or at least reduce my risk and my sizing here. The good thing about this one is that you could have the same thing on the short side. So you could see that this here could potentially be a trade, because what is happening here is pretty much we got a level, we got rejected from it. Clearly, we started closing on the daily and on the 4 hour below it. And now with those wicks, we're seeing that price has relative weakness here. So I would consider this also not a terrible short trade. Now, we go back to the narrative. Do you want to be short when we've had so much selling pressure? Do you want to, you know, believe that this will be a trade that will work out? You know, this goes to your bias and to the narrative that we discussed. And I wouldn't say this is a terrible trade because you're risking only 4%. You get invalidated if we start closing above this level, opposite to the bullish, and then you can target like $100. This area, this cluster around 100, around nice number. So again, not a terrible place to do business on the bearish side, and honestly, quite likely also to play out with all the weakness that we've had. So it's up to you to make your mind. For me, I'm leaning more bearish on this specific setup. That's why I'm looking into the bearish setup. However, I'm just seeing also the bearish side. I'm more on the bullish side, but you can see here the bearish side is also quite valid. Okay, so this is the next point. You need to obviously have a plan, and as I said, plan your entry and exits. And then the next thing you need to look into: are you close to invalidation? So what exactly this means? Let me just write it down here. Number 4, close to. What this basically means, you always want to get your entries as close as possible to your invalidation point. So pretty much you can obviously go through the time frames and decide when is your entry trigger. But I would say right now, obviously on the bullish side, I don't have the trigger, so I don't have the things that will make me enter the trade. But right now, what would be close to invalidation is as close as possible to this 130 level. And then I would decide like if I want to see a 4-hour close somewhere in here, or if I want to see something like this, maybe a clear break of structure here on the lower time frame and then a retest here. There are pluses and minuses that we're going to discuss here on both sides, but you want to be as close as possible here to the invalidation of your trade, because this will make you have better trades, risk less. You can size it up appropriately. Although even if you enter a little bit higher, the trade might make sense for you. You want to make sure you're as close as possible to invalidation. Are you going to have this all the time on all trades? No, definitely not. However, this is something that you should be aiming for and consistently try to be as close as possible, because it changes your risk to reward. Let's say we don't get this. Let's say, I don't know, I'm sleeping and I see closes somewhere around 135, 136. And technically I get the entry trigger because my entry trigger is, closes above this level. However, the R changes completely if I try to enter here. So this is 1.5 hour trade. Now it used to be 2.5 if I get entry somewhere around here. So you can see very big difference. It doesn't mean this cannot play out, obviously, but it gives you a lot less space for maneuvering and potentially for causing a lot of more pain. Now you can manage this with sizing. Obviously, if you believe the trade will not come and retrace this level, maybe it will do something like this, and you really want to have this trade and you have high conviction, you could still enter with smaller size. This is again into the plan and how you're going to manage the trade. However, I would definitely recommend always find trades that are close to invalidation and be patient, because not always you get the entry right away. It might take a while. You might not get it and might miss the trade, and that's fine, because there's always trades happening pretty much daily and hourly on all kinds of time frames. So the next thing that you need to consider, actually, let's first write it down, and then I'm gonna. The next thing is number 5 here. Have you accepted the risk? So what this means is, you see a lot of percentages here. We talk always in percentages. And let's say you take this trade and you have this, perfect trade, let's say, and it plays out in your favor. However, once you're entering, you gotta have exact amount of money that you're willing to risk, and you gotta accept it, because otherwise what could happen is like, oh, I'm just gonna put let's say 10 grand into this trade. And then it starts going against you. Then are you okay if you're losing, in this case, like $1,500 on a trade? How much of a percentage this is from your portfolio? Have you done the calculations? Because we always try to look at the percentages and if the trade makes sense, but then the sizing will determine also how much money you will lose or you will win at the end. And sometimes what could happen is if you don't size it appropriately, you could be shaking when price first initially goes against you somewhere in here. So let's say we have something like this and goes up, starts going up, but then it fakes out for a bit, for an hour or two, and then resumes. Like if you're starting to lose money here that you're not comfortable with, at just 5% down from your initial entry, then you'll be in trouble. You'll mismanage the trade, and you'll find out that really quickly that maybe you have oversized it and you're not ready with the risk. So you just close your eyes before you place the trade. Set the amount that you want to place and see how much you're going to lose. In this case, let's say 15%, 16%. Always put a little bit lower because we don't want to be at the wick. It could happen that we could wick down, just takes you out and then continues. Always put your risk somewhere in the area, a little bit lower. And then let's say on a $10,000 trade, are you okay with losing $1,700 in this case? Yes, if that's not a big deal for you, if it's a high conviction play, sure, take the trade. But if not, then you can adjust the risk accordingly. And the same thing happens like if you have a trade with smaller R, smaller risk. Let's say you're risking only 5%. Same thing, like maybe $500 on a $10,000 trade to lose is not too much for you. You don't consider this good sizing. Okay, then you can size it up. You can double the size. You can put like $20,000. Now, it really depends on you, but you gotta go through the motions and understand how much you're really risking monetary wise, not just as a percentage basis. And the next one, there are only a couple. So the next one that I wanted to share is number 6, confirmation. Have you had confirmation for the trade? So this is why is this so down on the list? Because you might go through the checklist, have the setup already in your mind, it's already working. However, the price still hasn't done it. Like the price still hasn't broken out or hasn't given you the trigger. And it's very important to wait for the confirmation, in my opinion, because sometimes we get into trades too early or too late, or maybe I've done this before. Like I go to bed and I just want to get an entry because while I'm sleeping, I won't be able to enter. I make up all those excuses to enter a trade early, and then obviously it doesn't go in my favor. Sometimes it could, but again, based on what? Is that consistency or that's just gambling? So I would say always wait for the confirmation and based on your plan, obviously, and just then take measures and make decisions. Are you entering the trade or not? Because right now I don't have a setup on the bullish side that I'm waiting for. There could be one on the bearish side because we already had a wick and we have consistent closes below this level and still lower high structure. So you might argue that on the short side you already have confirmation for this and you might enter. That's fine. But on the bullish side, I don't have confirmation for this trade still. So it's very important, and this comes with patience. Learning discipline and patience in trading is probably one of the most important skills you ever acquire. Waiting for the confirmation will help you learn the skill, because it's not that easy. Trust me, especially when you start imagining how much money you make on this trade. It's not easy to wait for a confirmation. And the final one that I told you, it's quite tricky, and that is, what will your mentor say? So if you have a guy or a trader that you've learned from, or you believe he's a good trader, first of all, don't follow blindly, obviously, but you've probably spent enough time, if you're serious about trading, learning how to read the charts, how he thinks about entering, exiting trades, and it's very important, if you don't have someone physically around you, it's very important to at least question what would a good trader, or in this case your mentor, do in this situation. Is that a good trade, or is this a good management, a good well-managed trade based on what he's learned and what he taught you, and also what if he will be taking this setup for whatever reason. And this is like imagine like this. So let's say you want to go out with your buddies and you want to go cliff jumping. Yes, it might sound very exciting, but what are you gonna tell your dad? If because you're very young, they don't let you go out that often. Are you gonna tell them? Are you gonna tell your dad and your parents that you're going cliff diving? If you do, what will be their response? If let's say you've done it before with him, he knows you're taking the measures and behaving well while you're doing this, and that you're an excellent diver and so on, so on, and he knows the place that you'll be going and it's not that dangerous, and today the weather is good and so on, so all those things that could be the criteria for a good trade. Maybe he'll say yes and he'll be fine with it. However, if it's something that you're doing for a first time, and it's extremely dangerous and you don't know nothing about the waters below or the rocks and anything like this, will he allow you to go cliff diving? And I think that's a very good metaphor for asking your mentor for a trade. Like, imagine he sits right in front of you and you present the trade, your plan, your execution, your confirmation, your exit strategy, your sizing, and everything. Will you pass? Will he give you the okay? Yeah, sure, it sounds good. This idea makes sense. You got defined risk and so on, so on, so on. Like, go through this mentally, and I promise you, you will not be entering that many trades. And for me personally, what I've done, sometimes, like, I look at my list, I'm preparing for a trade, and I'm already like checking it off. Is it a good narrative? Yes. Good place to do it. Yes. I put yeses everywhere, and then suddenly, what will your mentor say? And I just come to the chart and I look at it with a different perspective. Maybe I'm not in the right spot. Maybe I haven't marked out the right area. Maybe I have something completely wrong on the trade that initially, because of the excitement, I've missed. However, this question will help me kind of see it through the lens of another person and be a lot more objective. What I would often do is, in the past, I would just be like, I'm not going to talk to him. Like, I know this is just a mental exercise, but still my mind was blocking sometimes the stuff that I was writing here. And I was trying to, make sure I do the right thing and take all the measures on the trade. But then again, when it comes to this, I was like, I'm not going to ask him. And I've gotten into stupid trades that I shouldn't have been in the first place. So very powerful, very actually difficult to go through this, especially the last point, and to accept that maybe you're not taking the best trades every time, and that's fine as long as you learn from them, and try to make the most of it every single time. I think that's fine, but talking to your mentor, quote unquote, and having him judge your trades, I think definitely a very, very powerful tool. And that's everything, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, if you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.